One team is supposed to be elite. The other is supposed to be irrelevant. But both are stuck in the mud. Today on a crossover episode between Locked On A's and Locked On Braves.
You are Locked On MLB Crossover, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Thank you for making Locked On A's and Locked On Braves your first listen today. My name is Booney. One name, all passion. We are free and available wherever you get your podcast. So do me a favor and hit that subscribe button wherever you are following the show. The A's roll on with their 9-game homestand in Sacramento as the Atlanta Braves come to town for an interleague clash loaded with storylines. One of the most dangerous lineups in baseball, headlined by Ronald Acuña Jr. and former Athletic Matt Olson. They bring their firepower into hitter-friendly Sutter Health Park. It's a Locked On crossover episode as we team up with Jake Mastroianni, host of Locked On Braves, to break it all down. We are digging into everything. Could this be a high-scoring series in the heat of Sacramento? That's on the table, but predictions are later. And of course, we are talking about the elephant in the room, Ronald Acuña Jr. He's the 2023 most valuable player and arguably right now the best player in all of baseball. But with the Braves season stuck in second gear, could he actually be on the move at trade deadline? I'm asking Jake that directly. First, two struggling teams, two fan bases. Well, for the A's, what we have left of one, looking for answers. Is there still time to turn 2025 around? And what the hell happened? Let's get into it. First, this episode is brought to you in part by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $150 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. Jake, how are you, buddy?
Hey, good. Thanks so much for having me on. It's been a fun show.
Absolutely. Atlanta Braves had a lot of promise coming into the year, and so far it's been a little bit of a disappointment. And over here in athletics, since we don't really have a city, we understand how that is. What's gone on with the 2025 Braves season? Obviously, they got off to a slow start. They lost their first 7 or so, and then they fought their way back above 500. I believe they were like 24 and 23, something like that. And you're like, okay, here they come. There's the most dangerous team in baseball. Acuña is on his way back. Everything's firing in full gear. But they've gone on a skid lately. What's going on with Atlanta this year?
Yeah, it can really be pointed to one thing, and that's the offense. The offense that I think you gave too much credit in your open there, because yes, it was supposed to be a juggernaut coming in, and Acuña and Olson have, done their thing, but it's everybody else in the lineup, and it's really clutch situations. You look at this team, and they're 11 games under 500, which is just incredible to think about with all the talent this team has and what the expectations were coming in. But they also have a plus run differential, and it is really hard to be 11 games under 500 and have a plus run differential. But that speaks to the fact that they have been in so many games. They've already had so many one-run losses, but their offense just hasn't been able to come up with that big hit. It seems like just go back to this series over the weekend that they had against the Orioles, another struggling, underachieving team. They had 2 one-run losses, a 3-2 loss and a 2-1 loss, and they had a loss in extra innings. There have just been so many games this year that they've lost 3-2, 2-1, 1-0, because the offense just can't get that big hit. They've been in every game. The pitching has been good up to this point, but now they've lost Sell and Schwellenbach. But it really comes back to just the offense not being able to do enough, not being able to win a lot of these close games.
Yeah, no, I'm looking at it right now. I mean, A's are 18 games under 500, but a run differential of minus 140 compared to the Braves are plus 4. And yeah, obviously the losing Sale and Schwellenbach is huge. Question: Is there time to turn it around in 2025, or is that a wrap? I mean, you guys are 11 games out of the 9 games or 11 games out of the wild card right now. Is that a wrap for 2025?
It feels like it. I mean, they would have to go on one of the most incredible runs. And look, it's baseball. It's happened.
Yeah.
We've seen teams go on incredible runs before.
9 games, not bad.
Yeah, but I just don't know how they do it, especially with now that they've lost Chris Sale and Spencer Schwellenbach, because the one thing that was keeping them in games with the lack of offense was great starting pitching from Sale, Schwellenbach, Spencer Strider coming back. Grant Holmes has been really good moving back into the rotation, but I just don't know how they can overcome and have that miraculous type of comeback without those two guys in the rotation, two guys that I think were both going to compete for a Cy Young Award this year. Chris Sale, certainly, who won it last year, and after a slow start, it's looking like he was going to be right there with Paul Skeens and Zach Wheeler in the discussion again. And Schwellenbach was having another, breakout season after he had a great rookie performance last year. So I don't know how they overcome it unless this offense just suddenly turns into the offense we thought they could be, and they go back to scoring, 6 runs a game. But just with what we've seen through not only this year too, but I know a lot of fans outside of Atlanta might not remember because they won 89 games, made the postseason. The offense was a struggle last year, and part of that was due to injuries they had in the lineup, but also part of it was just the regulars underperforming. And then that has just continued into this year. It's why they got rid of their hitting coach, Kevin Seitzer. They brought in a new hitting coach in Tim Hires, and it's just gotten even worse, whether that's on hires or it's just regression from the players. The offense has just continually gotten worse. So I think it's a wrap. Again, they had a little stretch here before the All-Star break where they had 3 against the Angels, 3 against the Orioles. They won one of those games. So I just don't know how they come back from this.
For me, the A's right now are 12 back of the wild card, and I'm still holding out hope. And I may be delusional in that. My thinking is like, hey, let's get to 7 at the end of July. Let's get to a few at the end of August. And again, I understand I am a little delusional, but I refuse to talk about winter meetings in July. So, that's half the reason for it. What's is the fan base pissed off? Who does their blame fall on? Or is this just one of those things where it's just dumb luck with regard to the injuries that the Braves have faced?
Yeah, front office taking a lot of heat that they didn't do enough in the offseason. They wanted to get back under the luxury tax this year after being over the luxury tax the past 2 seasons. And so didn't spend enough in the offseason. But I pushed back on that because even if they did spend more, it was likely going to be on pitching. And pitching hasn't been the issue. Like I said, it's been the Austin Rileys and Marcell Ozunas who just haven't gotten those clutch hits. It's been Ozzie Albies and Michael Harris being 2 of the worst qualified hitters in all of baseball. It's really just been the regulars, the guys they've already paid big money to, that aren't stepping up and getting it done. So, but a lot of the fan frustration is at the front office, and a lot of it's the guy that I just mentioned in Tim Hires. They brought in this new hitting coach to try to give this group a different look and feel offensively, where it wasn't just so boom or bust and that they're a more well-rounded offense, but instead it just feels like they don't have an identity offensively now. They're not leading the league in home runs like they used to do, but they're also not hitting for a ton of average. They're not coming up in those runners in scoring position situations. They're not able to do the little things. So I'd say most of the fan frustration is at the front office or at hitting coach Tim Hires. I think more of it needs to be put on the players. And some of that is too, especially for the guys I mentioned like Ozzie Albies and Michael Harris, who have just been absolutely brutal for the Braves this year. But there's a lot of frustration, certainly, because there were high expectations coming in. And this team, like I said, I'm right there with you. I don't want to give up before the break, but it's really tough when you've lost, 9 of your last 11 games, and you had hope, you wanted to really get things going before the All-Star break to encourage the front office to go make some moves before the trade deadline, but you're not giving them any reason to want to go out and make moves because they just continue to drop winnable series like they had against the Angels and the Orioles.
Speaking of trade deadline, the one name that seems to always be popping up with regard to the Braves is Ronald Acuña Jr., arguably the best player in baseball. And when I hear his name come up, I am just stunned that the Braves would even consider it. And I want to get your take on it right after this. Summer is heating up and so is the baseball, while the A's are trying to slug their way past the Braves as Ronald Acuña Jr.'s name floats through the trade winds. You can turn every pitch, every hit, and every blown save into pure adrenaline with FanDuel. I'm locked into every game every night, and FanDuel's the app that makes even a Tuesday in Sacramento feel like Game 7. Whether I'm riding a same-game parlay with Matt Olson going yard or sweating out Mason Miller's final strike, FanDuel keeps me dialed in with killer promos, quick payouts, and a super clean interface. So while your friends are melting in lawn chairs this weekend, you could be cashing in on the chaos. A's versus Braves just got a lot more fun thanks to FanDuel. New to FanDuel, new customers can bet just $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if your first bet wins. Open the FanDuel app today or visit FanDuel.com to get started. Jake, is it a possibility? Could the Braves deal Acuña?
No. And just be quite honest with you, most of this talk is coming from national media.
Sure.
Anybody inside the Braves media, any Braves fan will tell you it would be ridiculous for the Atlanta Braves to trade Ron Acuña Jr. So I think this is getting overhyped by national media, who's just looking for a big talking narrative. And Ron Acuña Jr. is a hot name, especially with the way he came back from his injury. Now, to be fair, Ronald's really cooled off over the last week or so. He's really been struggling since he had the hot start coming back, but over the last week plus, he's really cooled off. But I think this is more national media driven right now. Like I said, anybody inside the Braves, covers the team closely. There's been no inkling that the Braves would even consider, trading Ronald Acuña Jr. So I don't think there's any way, and especially not at this trade deadline. If that were a thing that were to happen, if the Braves, the season's just a disaster, they wanted to do some sort of quick rebuild. Yeah, Ronald could bring you back a lot of pieces to help expedite that. But that's a move that you would make during the offseason where you have many more teams involved to try to get the best price that you can. Because he still has, I believe, 3 more years of team control rather cheaply. You're not paying him any more than $17 million a year in this deal. Yeah. So, I mean, it's one of the best deals in baseball. I know he's lost 2 years to injury.
He still looks great.
I'm just saying at this point, a player that has continually said, I want to be in Atlanta for my entire career. Now, what else is he going to say when he's asked that question? But it would not, first of all, it wouldn't look good with the fan base who's already upset because of where you are.
Right.
But I also just don't think it makes a lot of baseball sense either. If you're trying to still win in 2026, you win with Ronald Acuña Jr.
Who could you see going? Who would be a realistic piece that you could see going? Like maybe a Sean Murphy. Matt Olson has a huge deal still in front of him, but God, the kid is producing. Austin Riley's been striking out a ton. His type of power at the corner position at third. Could you see any of those guys going?
Yeah, the problem is when you're not winning, you don't have a lot of attractive pieces to trade because that means your players aren't playing well. Marcell Ozuna struggling over the last month plus, and he's been dealing with a hip issue all year. Other than that, it's really just some of your bullpen arms. Maybe a Raisel Iglesias, who's an impending free agent, a Pierce Johnson. I could see them moving one of those guys. I could see them moving a Sean Murphy if it were the right deal. I don't think they move him just for the sake of moving him. Yeah. But you do have Drake Baldwin, who's emerged as a good rookie catcher. It seems like, part of the future there. But I also don't mind having 2 really good catchers, especially when you're not having to pay one a lot on a rookie deal in Drake Baldwin. I don't mind having 2 really good catchers because Sean Murphy, look, he was the Braves' only offense on Sunday. He doubled off the top of the wall and hit a home run in a game they lost 2-1. So he's been great for the Braves. They're both really good behind the plate. But if the right deal were to come along, you got a team desperate for catching. Maybe happening.
Cutting out a little on me. I'm not sure if you got me right now. Uh-oh.
else.
Gotcha. I want to go back a little bit in time, and I think a lot of fans, as far as would be interested in this. When Freddie Freeman was with the Braves, was there a rift between him and Acuña?
Again, I feel like it's one of those things that the national media makes a bigger deal of than it was internally.
Okay.
I mean, look, there were some situations where Ronald is a young player, whether not running out of ball or something like that, and Freddie being the veteran, that he would address that. But I mean, Freddie will tell you, he loves Ronald. He thinks Ronald's the best player in the league. His son loves Ronald. So
gotcha.
I think it's one of those things that's probably more overblown nationally.
Absolutely. I mean, no question about it. Do the Braves have any fun prospects up right now or coming up in the future we could possibly see in Sacramento starting tonight? Or do they have anybody come in maybe after the All-Star break?
Yeah, so Didier Fuentes is going to pitch, I believe, on Tuesday night. He's a 20-year-old rookie. So, he's struggled. They've kind of thrown him into the fire because of all the injuries. He got bumped up, pretty quickly. But he's a good arm for the future, but he's still just kind of learning at the big league level. I already mentioned Drake Baldwin, who might win Rookie of the Year this season. Has been really good for the Braves. In the second half, I think J.R. Ritchie is a name, one of the Braves' top pitching prospects, again, with some needs in the rotation. I think he's knocking on the door. So I think he could be another one, too, that we see in the second half.
Gotcha. When I come back here, I'm going to take a quick break. And when I get back, I want to talk a little bit about the series, the pitching matchups, predictions. I have a feeling there is going to be a ton of runs. See you in a minute. If you are running a business, whether it's a podcast like mine or a full-on operation, you already know every missed call, every ignored message, that's opportunity slipping away. Picture this: the Braves just dropped a bomb on the A's, and your listeners are fired up, wanting to sponsor, partner, or just vent. If you are not picking up, they are moving on. That's where Open Phone comes in. Open Phone is the business line I didn't know I needed. I can separate personal calls from podcast inquiries, respond to sponsors from my laptop, and keep it all organized without carrying two phones like it's 2006. My whole team, okay, it's just me, but still can manage one number and reply like a pro. And when I'm off the clock, say diving into a Braves bullpen meltdown, Open Phone's AI steps in, handles the calls, answers facts, and grabs every potential lead. No more missed messages, no more money left on the table, just clean, crisp communication that keeps up with the grind. Open Phone is offering Locked On A's and Locked On Braves listeners 20% off your first 6 months at openphone.com/LockedOnMLB. That's openphone.com/LockedOnMLB. And if you have existing numbers with another service, Open Phone will port them over at no extra charge. Open Phone, no missed calls, no missed customers. Jake, 3-game set opens tonight. First thing I want to ask you, with everything that's going on with the A's, minor league ballpark, everything, I think in the Bay Area, or when we tend to live in a bubble. Everything that's just kind of going around us is just our own opinion and so forth. What does Atlanta, what does the rest of the country, not necessarily the rest of the country, your fan base, think of the situation going on with the A's, the move to Vegas, the temporary stop in Sacramento, etc.?
Yeah, I don't really know. I think for me, and I guess I can't speak for the whole fan base, I don't think there's a lot of certainty about what the A's are doing or that they're actually going to end up in Las Vegas. And so I think there's just a lot of confusion of what is the A's situation? Where are they going to ultimately be? I'd imagine it's kind of like what A's fans are feeling right now. Who are we? What are we? Where are we going? I think from an outside perspective, I think that's how a lot of us feel, is just, what is the future of the A's team? It seems uncertain. Like, we know, I think there's going to be a team, but it's like, where are they? I think it's still a big question, just nationally is what does the future look like for this A's team?
You know what's interesting is, and I don't know if you know this or not. Obviously, you hear everything with regard to the front pages and what's going on with the A's, and you hear the Fisher and Vegas, etc. But what a lot of fans don't realize, and maybe you do, and maybe they don't. Again, like we live in our own bubble, you'd assume they do. But the individual that led not only the negotiations for the A's staying in Vegas, the mayor of Oakland, and led the lease negotiations for the A's to stay in Oakland rather than go to Sacramento, shortly after that was indicted by the federal, was indicted on federal charges of literally stealing from the city. To give you an idea of what a mess Oakland was going through. A lot of that stuff the rest of the nation doesn't understand. It's like, that's kind of a big deal. Right there, as far as behind the story, is that the mayor leading the negotiations and everything with regard to going with the A's 2 months after was indicted on federal charges for literally stealing from the city, allegedly, however you want to call it. So when I hear about the national stuff, I'm like, there's a lot of stuff being left out of the story because Fisher and the owners are easy villains, right? The billionaire owner wants to bail the city, get the city out of get the team out of the city. Kind of sends a different narrative than the actual whole story. But I'm not sure if you knew that or not.
No.
But,
yeah, I think most people nationally are like, how can we benefit off the A's of this? Will they trade us any more of their players? Can we get Brent Rooker, Lawrence Butler to come over and play for us? That's what most Braves fans are probably thinking.
The biggest thing right now with the A's is just their culture. Excuse after excuse with signing a guy like Severino, who every start at home, he had a good start on the road, is making an excuse for the park. As far as I look at it, it's not an ideal situation. It stinks. I wish they were never there. At the same time, Tampa Bay seems to be playing pretty darn good in their minor league ballpark. So it's tough. I predicted the A's to win the AL West at the beginning of the season. I thought they're going to be a lot better. I'm eating crow right now for that. Not even close. Me too. A lot of my predictions were extremely, extremely wrong. Pitching has always been an issue, and I kind of knew that Sutter Health was going to be a hitter's haven because of the heat. And also there's not a second deck. So everything is blown. When something blows out, it's blowing out. The ball's ridiculously carrying. And right now, second in all of baseball as far as offensively, just to Colorado. Pitchers on the mound, the pitchers matchups we got Springs and Fuentes. You talked a little bit about Fuentes a little bit. This is his about third start of the year.
I think it's third or fourth start. Yeah. Young pitcher, really good stuff. Really talented prospect. It's just, it feels aggressive calling him up, and it's been a bit of a struggle for him. Like I said, trying to kind of figure it out at the big league level. Now you send him to a ballpark where the baseballs are flying out. So it's not a great matchup in my mind. Yeah.
Jeffrey Springs, we got in the trade in the offseason from Tampa Bay. Was awesome in 2023. One of the best left-handers in baseball, coming off Tommy John surgery. And he's been better. We'll see what Jeffrey Springs we get. Again, same type of issue, has struggled at home, but it's been a little bit better as of late. Has Elder been a little bit of a disappointment for you guys?
I mean, he's kind of been what Elder is. Like, he's a fifth, sixth starter type that will give you some good outings every now and then, but will obviously give you some blow-ups. But he is in a bit of a funk right now. He was really good early in the season, and then when Strider returned, they sent him back down to AAA. And ever since coming back, he's had one really good start, which happened to be out west against the Giants. So maybe he does better out there. I don't know. Right. But outside of that, he's been absolutely getting blown up, and he's somebody that, if he leaves the ball up at all, he can give up some home runs. So really scary matchup again, I think, on the Brave side for Elder in this one, if he can't keep the ball down. That's when he's got a good sinker, slider. If he's getting the ball on the ground, he can be really good. But if you force him to come up in the zone, he can give up a lot of home runs.
And that's similar to who the Braves will be facing in Game 2. Mitch Spence is a Rule 5 draft pick, heavy sinker. But if he gets the ball up in the zone, he's going to get hit. A grinder, tough, not the best stuff, but he's going to fight you. And then game 3, you have what do you got on game 3 is
Strider, I think.
Strider, that's another key piece, right? Another injury. I mean, you're thinking coming into the season, and I think it took Strider a little longer to come back this year than expected. Is that right? Or was that about his timing, how it should have been?
I think, well, Strider came back about when they expected him to. I think it was about a week or two into the regular season, but then he pulled a hamstring and was out for a month after that. So yeah, it felt like it took him a lot longer coming back, but he came back, made one start, and then went back on the of levels so far, but he's done a good job keeping the team, in the game well. The velocity is not nearly where it was before the injury, hoping that's going to work its way back as the season goes on, but that slider is still a devastating pitch for him, gets a lot of swings and misses, so he's done a good job. I mean, his last start on Friday against the Orioles, he went 6 innings, 3 earned. I mean, a quality start, like I said, keeping the team in the game, but just doesn't quite have that dominant stuff that he had before the internal brace surgery that he had.
And the A's are counting with JP Sears. He's had the last couple outings been good. Numbers high 4s as far as an ERA. I can see the ball flying. I can see high scoring games. I can see 12-10, 10-7 type of game so far. The Braves lineup, a guy we didn't talk about earlier who just came back, I believe, is Profar. That was a big signing in the offseason for the Braves. He was out for how long? Because 60 games, something like that, 70 games?
80 games suspension, for PED substance. So, and he was the guy that was supposed to come in and be a different type of bat in the order, somebody that gets on base, puts the ball in play, doesn't strike out a lot, but at least in 2024 showed a little pop. But now there are questions, was that pop, due to something else, or is it legitimate? He came back in his first 2 games, he hit a home run. So I think maybe he was trying to prove a point that power was legitimate, but he does help lengthen the lineup a little bit more for this Braves team. But yeah, season, and the only big thing they did, he was gone in the first week of the season because he got popped for PED. So it's good to have him back. Certainly it was going to help this lineup. And Braves haven't had many shootouts. Like I said, most of their games have been 3-2, 2-1, 4-3 types of games. So to be in a shootout offensively, would be fun. Be good to see the Braves hopefully get some runs. Maybe that gives them their offense some confidence going forward.
Hey,
so
don't worry, we'll get you guys right at Sutter. We'll get the Braves offense right at Sutter. Don't you worry about that. Big thing for the Braves fans to look for as far as the A's, our infield. Our infield's a lot of fun. Got a first round pick in 2023. He's going to be starting at third base in Max Muncy. Of course, you got all-star Jacob Wilson, who was a 2023 first round pick. Second base is Zach Geloff, who was a 2021 second round pick. And of course, Nick Kurtz, first round pick last year from 2024. So we're young. We got a lot of things going on as far as that goes. Give me some predictions. What do you think? 3 games. What do you think?
One thing we didn't talk about, though, another former A, I believe, Nick Allen, who is the Braves starting shortstop now.
Jesus,
so
how's he been doing?
Yeah, he is. I mean, he might win the Gold Glove defensively. He has been that good. You look at all the defensive metrics, and he's at the top of the board there. But even just the eye test, I mean, he has been tremendous defensively. Now, he's going to bat ninth, as you probably know. He's not much of a hitter, but he's taken over the shortstop job for the Atlanta Braves. They got rid of Orlando Arcia, who was there. He's now over with the Rockies. But Nick Allen, Braves starting shortstop, Gold Glove finalist. He's been pretty solid for the Braves, batting ninth there. As far as predictions, like I said, I don't love the pitching matchups, particularly in the first 2. I don't have a lot of confidence in Fuentes and Elder, and if the Braves are going to win, it's going to have to be because of their offense. But like I said, their offense has been what's held them back this year. So and you're coming off getting swept by the Orioles. So I don't have a lot of confidence in this team right now. But you've actually given me some confidence going into the series. So I'm going to say they're going to win it. They're going to find a way to win one of those first 2. Strider's going to pitch well enough in the finale to win the series. Really need a sweep. Obviously, that goes without saying with where the Braves are. They need to win every single game against a team that at least has a record similar to theirs or worse. But I just don't have a lot of confidence that this team can win a shootout type of game. They haven't had many like that this year, and their offense hasn't been able to keep up whenever another team's put up a big number.
I got the A's winning the first two, Braves winning the third. What's good news for you is I'm running at about 12% on these predictions. So, it's good news for the Braves. It should be fun, man. Hey, Jake, thanks for coming through. I'm looking forward to the series. I think it's going to be a fun series. I know it's two teams that are going in opposite directions. Excuse me, not in the same direction, the opposite way. But wild card, you never know. It's baseball. Hey, I'm not talking about December winter meetings now. But thanks, pal. I really, really appreciate your time, man.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me on. This is fun.
Thank you for making Locked On A's and Locked On Braves your first listen today, where we talk Matt Olson's return, Ronald Acuña Jr.'s trade rumors, and the Braves-A's showdown in Sacktown. But if you want to keep the baseball binge going, your next stop has to be Locked On MLB Game Night. Every game, every night, all season long. Game Night gives you local analysis from around the league with the energy of a pennant race, whether it's drama in Atlanta, chaos in Chicago, or heartbreak in Sacramento. It's the National MLB Pulse, told through the people who live it. Find Locked On MLB Game Night on YouTube or wherever you get your podcast, and tell them Booney and Jake sent you.